Good day, beautiful soul family, and welcome back to the discovery of the miracles beneath the surface. All the honor and all the glory and praise goes to our Heavenly Father in King Yahusha's name. Beautiful soul family, this message is called I Got Skin in the Game. I got skin in the game. Beautiful soul family, this is more like a clarity, like an update. This is about letting you know how dark these times are getting. So, what do I mean about I got skin in the game? Well, I'm glad you asked. So this is about circumcision. In the Holy Scriptures, it speaks about Abraham and how he had a covenant with, or has a covenant with Abba Yah by the means of circumcision. And then later on, there is an in-depth look at circumcision of the heart. In the Jewish Israelites, the Israelis as well, but they're different. Circumcision is still done to this very day. And there are those that make the decision to circumcise their sons, whether they're Israelite or Israelites or Israelis, is what I'm trying to say, because there are lies and there's light, okay? And they may circumcise their sons, but they are not in relationship with Yahuwah. And so, what's so interesting, and I heard this on the radio as I was in travel, and I was so flabbergasted. I was shocked. So I had to look it up myself, because sometimes when you hear things on the radio, maybe it's a skit, right? So I looked it up myself. And, well, there are those, it's so interesting. I don't even want to go there, but there are those who go under the knife, men, okay, who go under the knife for different reasons. And this is going to sound morbid, but hey, it is what it is, and it is being done. There are those, before I say this, let's do a sidebar. So back then, in an era where they would take certain people into their kingdom, their castle, they will make them eunuchs. And the eunuchs were servants, right? So what is being a eunuch? Being a eunuch, forced to be a eunuch, is someone who has been castrated in order to enter into their castle. Now we go to a different era, and the colonists, they would take certain men into the household, but first they would castrate them to prevent them from sleeping with their family members, their daughters, their wives, their cousins, their nieces, so on and so forth. And so they would go and sleep with those that have been enslaved, the enslaved wives and daughters, raping them actually. But when it comes to their wives, daughters, nieces, aunties, so on and so forth, they would castrate the man before bringing them into the household. Now, when we go to a different era again, we see how instead of them physically doing it or forcing it upon others, they would put them in a emotional state to where they would do it themselves. And then what's so interesting is that there are those who are so in deep in Satanism that that's exactly what they do. They make themselves a eunuch. And I think it's so interesting. But it's very sad. And so now, here we are today, 2026. There is a new, I don't know how new it is, but this is the first time I'm hearing about it. And, well, they are going under the knife again. Not to take away skin, but to add it. And that's why Yahuwah told me to put this message, name this message, I got skin in the game. So what are they doing? Well, they're not taking away, they're adding to. So when their family or when their parents went ahead and decided to circumcise them, as an adult, they're deciding that they want to add skin so that they're no longer circumcised. Circumcision is not just a physical thing, as I mentioned. Abraham did it, but he had a spiritual relationship with the Most High Yah. And in the physical, it starts off spiritual, but in the physical, it was by the means of showing the covenant, by the means of getting circumcised. Now, he was an older man, and he got circumcised. His son got circumcised. His servants got circumcised. His male servants. And this is out of obedience. And then at a certain period of time, the male children were circumcised. As I mentioned, this happens today. But there's also a spiritual circumcision. There's a circumcision of the heart, where you're cutting away at the flesh, the spiritual flesh, found in Galatians. Let's go there. So here in Galatians chapter 5, here, let's read verse 16, okay? And it reads, this I say then, walk in the Ruach of Yahuwah, okay? And you shall not fulfill the lust of the flesh. Verse 17, for the flesh lusts against the Ruach, and the Ruach against the flesh. And these are contrary to one another, so that you cannot do the things that you would. Verse 18, but if you are led by the Ruach, you are not under the law. Verse 19, now the works of the flesh are manifest, which are these: adultery, fornication, uncleanness, lasciviousness, idolatry, witchcraft, hatred, variance, emotions, wrath, strife, seditions, heresies, envying, murderers, drunkenness, revelings, and such the like, of which I told you before, as I have also told you in time past, that they which do such things shall not inherit the kingdom of Elohim, of Yahuwah. Now this is the manifestations. Now what's so interesting, beautiful soul family, is that everything starts so spiritual and then manifests itself to the physical. But it starts off in the spiritual. Now, our Abba Yah said that we are to live and walk in spirit and truth, spirit of righteousness, not spirit of unrighteousness, not the spirit of the flesh. Now, interesting enough to note, there are those who get baptized when they're a child, and they think one and done. But no, because a child is not in the right mind frame. Now, yes, we are to be as children, being innocent and looking up to our Abba Yah, right? But we're not to be childish and immature. There's got to be levels of growth. And in our lifetime, we are able to find those levels of growth and able to make that decision to whether we want to continue to move forward on the path of righteousness or going on about our own way. And here we see this in the account of Abraham and Lot. Abraham and Lot, as Lot was older, he had his own wealth, but they went their separate ways. Lot was not building his relationship with the Most High Yah. He knew of Yahuwah, but there wasn't a relationship built. No matter what he saw in his life, as he was seeing the different things that was happening with Abraham, he wanted a different way of living. So from afar, he saw Sodom. And from afar, it looked good. It didn't entice Abraham. It enticed Lot and his family. So off they went. But as Lot was in Sodom and Gomorrah, he was caught up in the tumultuous of things. Abraham, by the grace of the Most High Yah, was able to get Lot and his family and women and children because there was battles raging on. Sarah had sent Eliezer there to check up on Lot, and he ran into some issues. You see that in the book of Yasher. Beautiful soul family. Lot wasn't making his decision to build a relationship with the Most High Yah. And so even though there were angels that came to save Lot and his family, his wife looked back, turned into a pillow of salt. Him and his daughters were continuing forth, but they were here one minute and gone the next. But as the angels were telling him, don't look back, keep on going, go to the mountain, he was still in a mindset because he did not build his relationship with Yahuwah. And he said, we will not survive the mountain. He still was settling. He still was relying upon his own will, his own strength. They went to a little town called Zoar. It means little. But they saw that that place was just as messed up, so they ended up going to the mountains. But they still brought baggage. Emotional baggage. Beautiful soul family. Backed with those who are going under the knife to add skin. They're choosing to live their life in a different way. They're choosing to go in a different path. You see, it's not only, circumcision is not only spiritual. So really what they're doing is they're saying not only physically, and so what's interesting is I've mentioned that it starts off spiritually and then manifests in a physical plane. But what they're doing physically is also manifesting in the spiritual plane when they're saying no, they do not want a relationship with Yahuwah. They would rather live in the flesh. They would rather do according to their own will. They would rather not be in covenant with Yahuwah and King Yahusha. To walk in the path of righteousness. And the Israelites were not the only ones that did circumcision. As I've mentioned, the Israelites and the Israelis. But also the Egyptians did circumcision. There are so many other nations that did circumcision for different reasons, okay? In this day and age where they are adding skin, they're choosing to live according to the flesh. Circumcision has many benefits physically. It helps a person to stay clean. I don't want to say a person, but a man. Okay, it helps a man to stay clean, and I would list the other things here, as you can see. But they're deciding no, they don't. If they had an opportunity to decide when they were younger not to, they would say no. But see, the thing is that, there's a separation going on, beautiful soul family. The wheat from the tares, the goats from the sheep, the righteous from the unrighteous. Those who were raised in a certain way but decided they want to go to Sodom. They decided they want to go to a different path, to live their life in a different way. Not to live and walk in the ruach of Yahuwah, but to walk in the lust of the flesh. And these are how dark these times are getting. Now, I mentioned that they are not trying to take away flesh, overall speaking, but they're adding the flesh. They're saying, I got skin in the game. Until the next message, clarity, awareness. Have a beautiful and wonderful day, and may Yahuwah continue to open up your eyes in these interesting times.